If Narcos were to return for a highly anticipated Season 4, the narrative would likely pivot into a new era of the drug war, signaling a tonal and thematic evolution, rather than a simple continuation. The earlier seasons focused heavily on Pablo Escobar and the Cali cartel, while Narcos Mexico expanded the universe by exploring the rise of Mexican cartels. A fourth season could bridge these worlds by examining how Colombian trafficking networks reshaped themselves after the fall of their most notorious leaders. With power vacuums left behind, smaller but more ruthless factions could rise, showing that the drug trade never truly ends. It only adapts. Season 4 might explore the globalization of cocaine routes, emphasizing how Europe, Central America, and even Africa became key transit points. This broader scope would allow the series to maintain its trademark intensity while refreshing the storyline. The DEA's role could also evolve, focusing on international cooperation and political compromises, highlighting how the war on drugs became more complex and morally ambiguous over time. A major prediction for Narcos Season 4 is a deeper focus on the transition from kingpins to syndicates. Instead of one dominant figure, like Escobar, the show could portray a fragmented criminal underworld where multiple players compete simultaneously. This shift would reflect historical reality. As cartels became more decentralized to avoid collapse, viewers might be introduced to composite characters, inspired by real traffickers who operated quietly but efficiently, laundering money through legitimate businesses. The drama would stem less from flashy violence and more from strategic maneuvering, betrayals, and covert operations. This approach would add a layer of sophistication to the storytelling, showing how power can be more dangerous when it's invisible. Season 4 could also examine how corruption spread deeper into institutions, blurring the line between criminals and authorities. By focusing on systems rather than individuals, Narcos would reinforce its central message. Removing one villain does not dismantle the machine that sustains the drug trade. Another strong possibility is that Season 4 would spotlight the human costs of decades of conflict more intimately. Earlier seasons balanced cartel perspectives with law enforcement viewpoints, but a continuation could give more screen time to civilians, journalists, and families caught in the crossfire. This shift would add emotional weight and maturity to the series. Journalists investigating narcopolitics could become central figures, showing the dangers of truth-seeking in a world dominated by fear. Their stories would echo real-life tragedies while underscoring the importance of accountability. Season 4 might also explore generational trauma, focusing on children of traffickers and agents alike, grappling with inherited violence. This angle would deepen the show's moral complexity, moving beyond action-driven storytelling. By humanizing the consequences of the drug war, Narcos could evolve into a more reflective series, questioning whether victory is even possible in such a deeply entrenched conflict. From a stylistic standpoint, Narcos Season 4 could adopt a darker, more restrained tone. While earlier seasons featured explosive set pieces, a new installment might rely on tension, surveillance, and psychological drama. This would mirror the real-world shift toward intelligence-driven operations rather than open warfare. Expect storylines involving wiretaps, informants, and political negotiations conducted behind closed doors. The narration, a hallmark of the series, could return with a more cynical edge, acknowledging past failures and broken promises. This reflective narration would help contextualize events, reminding viewers that history often repeats itself under different names. Season 4 could also experiment with nonlinear storytelling, jumping between timelines to show how decisions made in the past ripple into the future. Such narrative experimentation would keep the franchise fresh while honoring its documentary-style roots. Character development would be crucial in making Season 4 compelling. Instead of clear heroes and villains, the show could present morally conflicted protagonists. D-agents might struggle with burnout, guilt, and ethical compromises after years of fighting an unwinnable war. Local law enforcement officers could face impossible choices between survival and integrity. On the criminal side, traffickers might be portrayed as pragmatic operators rather than flamboyant villains, emphasizing how normalization of crime makes it more dangerous. Season 4 could also introduce strong female characters in leadership roles, reflecting the increasing influence of women in both criminal organizations and law enforcement. These characters would challenge stereotypes and add fresh dynamics to the narrative. By focusing on internal conflicts and personal stakes, The series would maintain emotional resonance even as it expands its geopolitical scope. Politically, Narcos Season 4 might delve into the consequences of U.S. foreign policy and its unintended effects. The series has always hinted at political hypocrisy, but a continuation could explore it more boldly. Storylines could involve covert alliances, funding scandals, and the prioritization of optics over real solutions. Season 4 might show how political leaders used the drug war as a talking point while quietly benefiting from its existence. This critique would resonate strongly with modern audiences, making the show feel timely despite its historical setting. By examining the intersection of politics, money, and violence, Narcos would reinforce its reputation as more than just a crime drama. Would be a commentary on power and accountability. Another prediction is the expansion of the narrative into new territories. While Colombia and Mexico have been central, Season 4 could explore how the drug trade penetrated new regions. Central America, with its strategic location, could become a focal point, showing how smaller nations were destabilized by cartel influence. Alternatively, the story might briefly shift to Europe, highlighting the demand side of the equation. This global perspective would emphasize that the drug trade is not confined to one country or culture. By showing the interconnectedness of supply and demand, Season 4 could challenge viewers to reconsider simplistic narratives about blame. This expansion would also allow for diverse settings and characters, enriching the visual and cultural texture of the series. Violence in Season 4 would likely be more calculated and unsettling rather than frequent and explosive. Instead of constant shootouts, the show might depict targeted assassinations and psychological intimidation. This restrained approach would make each violent act feel more impactful. The fear would come from unpredictability and the sense that no one is truly safe. Season 4 could also explore the long-term psychological effects of violence on those who witness or perpetrate it. PTSD, paranoia, and moral numbness could become recurring themes. By focusing on the aftermath rather than just the act itself, Narcos would mature as a series, offering a more realistic portrayal of life in conflict zones. A key thematic prediction for Season 4 is the idea of cycles. The show could emphasize how history repeats itself, with new cartels rising from the ashes of old ones. Characters might reference past events, drawing parallels between different eras of the drug war. This cyclical structure would reinforce the series' central thesis, that the war on drugs, as it has been fought, is fundamentally flawed. Season 4 could end, not with a sense of closure, but with a sobering acknowledgement that the system continues. This would be a bold but fitting choice, staying true to the show's realistic tone rather than offering false hope. Ultimately, Narcos Season 4 predictions point toward a more expansive, introspective, and globally aware series. Rather than chasing spectacle, the show would likely prioritize depth, realism, and moral ambiguity. By exploring new regions, evolving characters, and systemic issues, Season 4 could redefine what the Narcos universe represents. It would remind viewers that behind every headline are countless untold stories of loss, compromise, and survival. If executed well, this season could stand as a powerful continuation, one that honors the legacy of the original while pushing the narrative into more challenging and thought-provoking territory.